And welcome back to the Pennsylvania and Berwind. This is Wasted Tries, playing on this excellent route from Approach Medium, Bill M. And one of the pleasures of playing this route with Conrail working the P&B is we get to see a lot of different liveries of some of the routes that Conrail inherited or consolidated, along with those P&B liveries that I created, of course. And I particularly like the Lehigh Valley red here. And what we're looking at right now is Tyler. Tyler is coming back onto the map in Juniata with a couple of boxcars for Jake's Freight. And this is one of those cleanup tasks where we already visited Jake's Freight before, but we didn't quite deliver enough freight cars, enough general goods cars for some odd reason, so now that's going to be rectified. And I'm sending him on autopilot right now to the Laurel siding. That's sort of the lead track for heading up to Old Town, and the branch lines up in that direction. So that's Juniata we're seeing in the background there, and we're going to come back to Tyler momentarily. Next, we're going to have a look at Waza. Waza is backing up here just because I think I had Waza sent on autopilot to Allegheny, and I don't know which track mark I sent Waza to, but anyway, it looks like we've stopped short of going all the way down onto the main line track, and what we really want to do is go into this siding track so that we can go up to the end of the yard and then pick up some of the cars that are sitting in the yard waiting to go to Juniata. Got quite a long train and a fairly heavy train already. And I'm just going to fly up here and make sure that the switches are aligned correctly. Going through the forest for some reason. Yeah, this crossover track needs to be switched. And I believe there's no track mark at the end, so I'm just going to let Waza keep going, and we're going to come back to him momentarily. Next we have Andrew. Andrew is here at Briars, actually Shawnee. And Andrew has to load 12 cars here of a 24-car train that is all going to be a unit train of wheat. I think we might actually consolidate it with some other trains later on, but we'll see how this goes. I should be able to load 2 cars here, is my theory, at a time, that is. And I believe that the loading time is set very short, so that'll be 4 cars loaded. And next we are back with Amy, and Amy has just finished loading or unloading some fuel oil here at Highland. And what I think we want to do is do the rest of this coupling job here, try to do a little bit of this with autopilot. So Highland Industries East, and then I'm going to couple with Tank Car Black 6. Because these tank cars, nothing is happening with the tank cars. However, these bulkhead flats will be going to Grafton, where we'll be picking up some pipes at the steel mill. I hope. I don't know how long that'll take, because now with Highland, originally on the PNB, Highland is quite close to Grafton, but now with my implementation, it's quite a fair distance, and autopilot might take it slow. We'll see. Okay, back here with Waza. Waza is just shuffling his way through this yard. So might want to check on one of the other trains while we're waiting. Well, we are back with Isla, and it is lucky that we checked in on Isla, because it looks like I had forgotten that Isla was just driving without any autopilot. It was just driving off in one direction. So we actually got off the branch line completely, went a little bit too far, but now it looks like Isla is taking it on autopilot all the way to the destination, I gather. I think that Isla's autopilot wasn't willing to make quite as many switching moves as was necessary to get to the distribution facility where we're going to be dropping off this diesel oil. So now Isla's going the right direction. Should be good to go. We'll see Isla back when we arrive, presumably in Old Town. All right, we are back here with Waza, just tooling through the yard at a fairly leisurely pace. There's our caboose track in the background. Doesn't get as much use as it should, frankly. speeding ever so slightly, but I think that we can manage this. In the background now, you can see the train that we're going to be coupling up together with, and then all of this train will be going off the map. Quite a number of people having pool parties on this wonderful, glorious, sunny day in Allegheny. It is a Wednesday, of course, so guess they don't have to work. The little doghouse there, I love it. In the background, we have our fertilizer box cars, and we have our steel rods coming from the Allegheny steel mill, and both of those are the things we're going to be coupling up to get 2 tasks out of the way, along with another task, which is the sand covered hoppers attached already in this train. Alright, I'm going to hold it here. I think this is a fairly heavy train, so I'll be cautious about stopping in advance of the switch. And then we should be able to decouple, go back, and grab those cars. But before I do, I will rush back to Andrew and push back, or pull forward a little bit and get a couple more covered hoppers filled. Okay, pulling Andrew forward. Okay, this should be half of the cars we need. 6 out of 12. Maybe pulled a little bit too far forward, but it'll be good enough. All right, here we are with Isla, just passing through Old Town. I think we're sort of backing up through here, so not doing any of the horns, but we're almost just right around the corner to the Standard Oil facility in Old Town here. And then here we are with Waza, of course. We're ready to couple up with this train that's in the yard. All right, you can see in the corner here that Amy is stuck, doesn't have access to vehicle funnel flow tank car black number 6, which is sort of weird. Guessing it's a signaling problem, but I had hoped to be able to save some time that way. That's somewhat the reason that I don't do that more often, is that I do have some problems with that autopilot at times, even when things are very straightforward, like I pull forward. It should be just a matter of backing up into the right track, but won't do it. All right, forward. Let's see how much this weighs. 1,600 tons. Not bad. Here again, you might think, well, why don't we just autopilot to couple these two trains? They're right next to each other. Or pull this train forward on autopilot, pass the switch, and then order it to couple by presumably going backwards. But I'm just not totally confident that it would do that. I think it could be signals. I don't know. We'll see. Come down here close and monitor this switch. Of course, this is not the key switch. We need to get back onto the siding out of the yard. Back it up, and the instructions are telling us clearly Amy is stuck in awaiting new instructions again. Of course, I'm sure Amy is just sitting there. Yeah, that was pretty big impact there. And a lot of slack to play out. Let's have this go to Briars, Maine, or I think it's actually Shawnee, Maine. Shawnee, Maine track, yes. And then from there, we'll be going to Laurel. Laurel, track 2 west. And then from there, Waza, you will be navigating to Juniata portal. And that's going to be taking you off the map. Don't know if that will actually reach there this turn, but we'll see. So here we are with Amy, and Amy is just stuck here, as indicated. And And it had successfully, autopilot had successfully thrown this switch. Of course, we didn't really need to come down this far at all. This switch is already in the correct direction. This switch is already in the correct direction. And this one is not. That's the track we came down. But we really should have just pulled forward to the track mark, basically, and then started backing up. But the train pulled much further forward than that. So we're just going to back up a little bit more. A little bit better coupling job there this time, and cancel this task, and now we're going to continue schedule. Now there's no problem, it's just a straight shot, I guess. Okay, back here with Andrew, and Andrew needs to pull forward and get another couple of cars loaded. All right, that's looking good, and now time to go over to Isla again. All right, Jessica pulled up into the Standard Oil facility, but didn't quite make it into the loading area. Totally understandable. Even though it's a fairly large loading area, but these cars are just slightly at the end of the train, so didn't quite make it. But that's okay. And I'm going to assume that that will unload correctly. All right, and it looks like Jake is making very good progress on his way onto the map. And as I said, there's a considerable amount of new territory to the route that I added to increase the amount of distance between basically Juniata and M & West Furniture on one side, and then Grafton and Highland on the other side. So this is some of that added area. And obviously, just having scenery like this, it's a little bit of work, but it's not that much work to create this. Just not even any track work, basically. And yeah, this little town in this little valley, kind of cute. And all of this is, wow, it's a very smoky building. I think I had another asset that doesn't smoke, but yeah, it's a very thin area that I've added to this route. So we're almost to the branch lines that Tyler will be going up. Okay, Andrew is going to be pulling forward once again. And I always like to see two trains in motion, especially when one is on autopilot, so we don't have to worry about anything. So that'll be 10 cars loaded, and then we'll pull ahead once more, and then this train will be ready to head on to Old Town. And it's no surprise that Isla is here at Old Town, well, just a little bit beyond Old Town, and Isla is all ready to head out again. The refinery is one of the first episodes and one of the first ones that I really started getting into. But it's a part of the map that it's not very optimal. I think there's too much squeezed in here, so now you can see that what I've done is made it a little bit more sparse. And of course there's no more refinery there, just a little distribution center. All right, now I'm going to attempt to put this on autopilot to the Laurel siding again. Tyler has made it here, and really this is where we need to start backing up. I'm not going to do a run around here, so I'm going to back up with this caboose in the lead, just like what we were doing on screen a moment ago with Isla. So let's just cancel this. We don't have to go all the way to that track mark, and we can have you backing up. This way there's no risk of these two trains clogging up the Laurel siding when Waza is coming to Juniata. I know this is a little bit too dark. It probably doesn't look like much on screen in YouTube, but yeah, this is the interior of the RS11 cab that I put together so far. And I think there might be a way to make it a little bit lighter inside without changing the color scheme. You know, the color scheme is the right level of darkness when it's in the sunlight, but then when it's in total darkness, it's just not light enough to see, or it seems like it's too much in shadow, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, we're making progress towards Jake's Freight. And back with Andrew, ready to pull forward. Overshot just slightly, even though I thought I was being extremely careful. And I'm just going to take over to make sure we can speed up a little bit, because I think autopilot takes it too slowly. This train does have the 2 spent grain cars there, which now that we're going to be meeting up with the outbound train heading for Juniata, I think it will probably make a slight amount of sense to couple these cars into that train. Then we get one more thing done. Going to fly up here and see about the switches here in Laurel, if they're locked. Waza has plenty of space. I think we can make it easily, but I want to make sure. So we're definitely going to monitor this closely. Little S2, Alco S2 is really struggling mightily with this train, I guess. Past the signal of danger, yes, there's some dangerous track work going on here. Dangerous dispatching going on. Waza seems to be moving fairly slowly, though. There's another red block signal coming up. Okay, there is the line up to Jake's Freight. That's the Spruce Run Secondary. It's a name I often forget for some reason. And I think some of these are real places, not fictional. The whole naming conventions are based on a variety of things that Bill M. maybe originally came up with, I think. So I might not be familiar with those origins. We do need to check on Jake's Freight, but I think this is more important to make sure that this train gets where it's going in time. And Waza's little symbol is moving so slowly, I can't help wondering if Waza might actually have stopped. And here we are in Laurel. So yeah, Waza stopped just at the right place, I would have to say. And let's just take over Waza and have Waza stop here. Yeah, so see that Trans-Living Railroad path. I think what we want to do here is just have Isla drive off. First, that will leave all these cars to be taken off the map. That'll be good. Now, it looks like Tyler is almost to Jake's Freight. We are just inches away. I do want to come back and make sure to manage what's going on with Waza and Isla, but I think we can stick with Tyler here just for a few moments while we pull into Jake's Freight. Getting a little bell action. I'm taking over just to make sure we don't slow down too quickly. And now we do need to slow down. That was definitely a non-standard horn signal right there. All right, we're gonna drop the boxcars there and just gonna pull forward oops, wrong forward. Pull forward slightly. There might be a coupler sticking out there, but that's okay. It's gonna have to be okay. Now we're gonna jump back to Isla. Isla can stop there because Isla is fully into that branch line and out of the way. Some lawn mowing going on there. Oh, can't zoom out. $4,000 tons plus 300 tons. Just checking my spreadsheet, and that is well within the boundaries of what this train can accept, what these two units can accept on level ground. Might be tough on a 2% grade, but we don't really have any 2% grades where we're going on this route. Disappearing UPS truck. All right, back it up. We'll hang on to this car here. All right, now we can follow our original plan to drive to the portal. So let's get rid of this one and then continue schedule. Okay, so now this train is actually carrying 4 tasks to completion, and it's going to be about 15 minutes until this reaches Juniata and leaves the map. So I am going to count this as having been completed this session, because there's no other actions that this train can do, and there's no place for this train to get blocked even by autopilot. As far as I know, obviously I'll check up on that, but I'm pretty sure because we've done this road before. And now the question is, what do we have left on the list? Well, we have Grafton. All right, checking in on Amy. Amy is, of course, heading to Grafton. And I'm sorry to say that Amy is not even halfway to Grafton between Highland and Grafton. And that's because of a fairly obvious reason, which is that we're only driving at 22 miles per hour in a 45 mile an hour zone through this sort of flyover country that I've created in between the 2 towns. So yeah, it's tempting to take over here, but I don't want to just put this guy on 45 miles an hour, sorry, Amy, 45 miles an hour, and then forget about her. So let's go and look at Andrew instead. All right, Andrew has loaded all of these 12 cars with wheat, and now Andrew's next destination is Agway, again up the Old Town branch. So we're really seeing a lot of the Old Town branch in the last couple of episodes, which is great, because that is sort of, I don't know, it's one of my favorite parts of the build series, partly because it's just sort of the beginning of the build series, I guess, but also I think that that has a lot of interesting detail, really packed together, so I like watching that. And yeah, we're going to head over there again. Now I'm just seeing on the clock, it is now 3:30 in the afternoon, and usually I try to mark the end of the day as 4 or 4:30 at the latest, and I think we have license in this case to mark 4:30 as the end of the day when we have to transition to a new day. So we'll see in the next video, in the next episode, whether we're able to complete all the tasks by the end of this day. I think we're looking good. Say 75% probability at this rate. Now, I'm definitely going to put this train on autopilot to the Laurel siding. right, looking good. Again, taking off rather slowly, but I think that's just because it's a very heavy train already. And I think that the Old Town branch, this train would have to go up backwards to reach Agway, is my guess. I'm going to have to take a look at that. And I think that this is the sort of train where I wouldn't find that acceptable. We'll probably have to do a runaround. Maybe split the train up so that we've got the loaded cars left at the Laurel siding is what I'm thinking. That could make a lot of sense. Or it could also make sense for one of these switch engines that we were just seeing to come back and grab those cars that are going to Agway. That's another possible solution. So let's go over and check on our other two trains. Both Amy, who's heading to Grafton, and then also Waza, who's heading off the map. All right, Amy is still heading through flyover territory, starting to get fairly close to the Grafton part of the route. This is the part where the scenery transitions from the agricultural area into the forested mountain or hills area where Grafton is. And coming up to this kind of last bridge, and I think right after the bridge is where we get back onto the original, the OG P&B. So this train is almost to Grafton. And this is, of course, M & West Furniture, and the train of Waza that's heading to Juniata, just passing M & West Furniture, and in the original P&B, M & West would be, of course, right next to Juniata, but this is sort of the beginning of that flyover territory where we will see the train just passing through some agricultural lands before it gets to Juniata. So we can then jet to our next destination. All right, so Amy, almost to Grafton. Shadows start getting long even at 3:30 in this game, even on a summer's day. The sun always sets exactly at 6 p.m. everywhere in the world, in every season, on Trains 2022. And that's definitely a pet peeve of mine and something that others on the Discord channel have kind of raised a few times before. And it is true that a lot of computer games like Derail Valley, they would have similar ways of scheduling things, like the days do not change with the seasons. But the thing about Trains is that it does have the calendar function there. Obviously that calendar function enables the seasonality aspects of Trains, but I think what would make a lot of sense is that at least the sun could move more slowly across the sky if they didn't want to. My understanding is that the sun in Trains is just in some sort of its own skybox which rotates around the world. So to my mind, that would be possible to just change the elevation of the sun over the course of the year so that that box would, by its nature, rotate the sun more northerly and therefore set later in the northern hemisphere. But yeah, I don't think it's exactly the way it's done. I think that the sun is basically set to 0 degrees equinox latitude so that it sets exactly in the west and rises exactly in the east. Everywhere in the world, in every season. Okay, it did speed up, but I didn't mean to speed up to that level. Of course, probably the speed limit in this area is exactly at the default speed limit because I haven't added speed limits to that flyover country. Which I admit, as seeing it almost for the first time, it's a little bit basic. And then as we come into the area where we've got the approach medium grass splines, it's quite a jarring difference, I would have to say. But yeah, 45 feels like the right speed for this area of the map. And I can tell that Approach Medium's original P&B did have some spacing there between Highland and Grafton. It wasn't like they were right adjacent to each other, whereas for M and West Furniture and Juniata, they were really right adjacent to each other. And for that matter, the Old Town branch is right after M and West, so there's basically no spacing between that side of the map and that branch line. So this gives it a little bit more padding. And here we are coming into the Grafton yard. I think we can justify slowing down just a little bit. Again, I'm not treating the speed limits as canonical, and we're not penalized for speeding in this playthrough. I see we do have a slight issue here, which is by passing that switch, we passed the last opportunity to cross over. I think I might have even added a few switches to increase the number of crossovers from one direction to the right, but I think we're going to actually have to back up, which I think that's going to really use up a lot of our time. I thought maybe we would be able to arrive at Grafton, but now that we're backing up, I'd say we're not quite going to make it. I'm just going to check to see where Waza got with the local heading out over to Juniata. I can see that we're still in flyover territory. I am still going to mark those tasks as completed, even though I guess it'd be about 10 more minutes before Waza would reach the edge of the map. But you get the idea that I'm trying to be efficient in showing you that we do have just, I believe, 2 tasks left. The pipes in this train, and then the, 3 tasks because there are two wheat-related tasks that we've filled up one part of the train with wheat at Briars, but we haven't yet filled up the Agway portion of that train. So yeah, we're going to take this train into Grafton Port. So yeah, we can continue schedule now with Amy. And then we will leave you finally at the end of the episode here with Andrew. Andrew heading to the Laurel siding with the wheat train, which will be going to Agway. So that's where we're going to pick up, and I predict, I have fairly high confidence now, 90%, 100%, that the next episode of the PNB will be the final one of this run-through. We'll just be finishing these 2 tasks, and in case there's a lot of extra padding where we're just following the trains through the route, we'll have to decide, do we shorten those parts out, or do we leave them in just for completeness sake? We'll just have to see. I think appreciate your input if you have any thoughts on that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the PNB, episode 21, and next time we'll be back with episode 22, and I predict we'll be starting off either with Andrew or with Amy. So see you then, and thanks for joining.